I'm so excited for today's show. Today, we are talking with Tiffani Thomas, who is the leader of this wonderful group called Moms of Margin. Today, we are going to be talking about meal prepping. The title of today's show is Simple Meal Prepping for Real Life. Are you a busy woman who prioritizes everyone else's health above your own? Do you have questions about your diet, exercise, or how to prevent or treat certain health conditions? Are you always Googling health questions that you forget to ask or are embarrassed to ask your primary care physician? Girl, do you even have a primary care physician? Well, welcome to Headed to Healthier. I'm Dr. Brittany Anderson, a board-certified family medicine physician, and every day in my private practice, I have discussions with women just like you who are doing their best to juggle the demands of life while also desiring to become healthier. Inside this podcast, you'll find practical and actionable health tips that you can incorporate into your daily life. You'll get expert advice and insight from some of my awesome healthcare colleagues, and you'll hear relatable conversations with incredible women just like you who have made their health a priority and are thriving because of it. So throw on your sneakers and get some steps in while you listen. Or if you're driving, get those hands at 10 and 2 and let's dig in. We are headed to healthier. Welcome back to today's show. I'm so excited to have our guest today. It's Dr. Tiffani Thomas. I have known Tiffani for a very long time. I feel like it was a long time, Tiffani. You were a few years under me in residency training. Let me think back. It's 2 years, right? I was in third year and you were intern.
Yep.
That's right. And so, for those listening, Tiffani and I are both family medicine doctors, and in our family medicine residency is 3 years. And so, I was an upper level in my third year when Tiffani came in as a first year resident or an intern, as we call them. And I lucked out. I hit the jackpot with Tiffani as my intern. The intern, unfortunately, in medicine gets a lot of the scut work and is the one left taking care of the patients when they call and answering nurses' calls. And I may or may not have gotten my best naps in the hospital when Tiffani was there on service because she was so good and I trusted her so much with the lives of our patients. She is a wonderful physician, and I'm so happy to have you on the podcast today. So, Tiffani, I told the people a little bit about you and what a great doctor you are. Will you tell us just a little bit about you personally, and then we'll get into Moms and Margin, and then we'll get into our discussion today?
So I am a mama of three little girls. So my oldest is 6. Then I have a 2-year-old and I have a 5-month-old. So when I'm not spending a whole lot of time with them, I really try hard to make sure that I'm exercising and overall just taking care of myself, just so I can be the best mama to them. Because I know when I'm at my best, that's when they get the best mama.
Good deal. All right, Tiffani, tell us a little bit about Moms of Margin, kind of what made you start the group and what the group is in general. Just tell us a little bit about it.
So Miles of Margin was truly birthed out of my desire or more of a calling to take care of moms. Back when we were trying to have our first, it was taking longer than expected, and I felt like I was supposed to do something with that journey. And so I kind of felt a prompting to just take care of moms. And I was like, how can I take care of moms? Like, I'm not a mom. That doesn't really make any sense. So I started stocking freezers. And so whenever one of my friends was about to have a baby, I would literally just stock their freezer. My thought process was that like everyone's going to be paying attention to the baby. Like, let me try and take care of mom and make sure mom doesn't have to worry about what's for dinner. She can just like, okay, let me just throw this in the crock pot, have a couple things they can heat up for breakfast. And so that's really where it started. So after I did that for a couple of moms, it came small group time at church, and someone convinced me to do a small group about it. So this was 2020, January. I started a small group, and so I think it was probably about 5 or 6 moms would come to my house on Sundays, and we'd prep all our meals for the week, and we just talk. So after we did that, probably 6 or 7 weeks. As you know, this was 2020, so the pandemic came. So we took it
Yeah.
virtually. And once we took it virtually, it was kind of like I added people from South Carolina, like I added people from other places. And then I was like, we really could just do this. Everyone could do this, like not just
Yeah.
small group. And so that's kind of where it started and how it took off.
Wow, that's awesome. It's so funny that you thought to do food for women who are about to deliver. That never crossed my mind. I bring the diapers and the baby wipes, and that is usually where I draw the line. But that is such a great idea. After this discussion, I may have to put that in my back pocket as a present gift or as a new baby arrival gift because that's a really good idea. And I think something that most people don't think about. So that's awesome. Well, let's get into it. Again, the topic, as you've already alluded to, is meal prepping and specifically meal prepping for busy women. A lot of the folks in my audience are really busy women, and we often think about, where am I going to fit time into my day to get dinner on the table? And it's one thing for us to be able to just stop by and pick up something fast food, but it's a whole other thing, whether it's just us preparing dinner for ourselves. Me, I'm just one person preparing a dinner for myself, but folks who are preparing dinners for families, right? And wanting to make sure that we get something healthy on the table for ourselves and for our families. So you've already kind of answered my first question, which was what sparked your passion for helping moms create margin in their lives. You've discussed that a little bit as far as it relates to getting healthy meals on the table and getting appropriate meal planning done. So I'm going to go into my next question for you, which is why do you feel meal prepping is important for women in this busy stage of their lives?
So most women just have so much on their plate. And so Moms with Margin really is just about taking something off your plate. Like you do not have to worry about the dreaded what's for dinner question. It is like it doesn't like you hear what's for dinner and you're like, "Oh, we've already planned it out." Like that is a simple question for you to answer. And so I think it's important because it really gives you freedom. And so the way I call it meal prepping, but what it actually is fridge prepping.
Fridge
So it
prepping.
just gives
Okay.
you it just gives you freedom.
Gotcha. Fridge prepping. That's hard to say. Fridge prepping is a real good term. Tell us what you mean by that and how that differs from meal prepping. Because when I think about meal prepping, I think about on Sunday evening cooking everything that I'm going to eat for the week, which sometimes is pretty tough. If I do make something on Sunday, I'm pretty tired of eating it by Tuesday. And it's kind of hard in my week sometimes to then also have a meal ready on Wednesday to eat again on Thursday and Friday. So is fridge prepping a little bit different from what we think of when we say meal prepping?
Yeah, so for the most part, whenever I fridge prep, I am not cooking a single thing. And
Ah,
so traditionally the term meal prepping is for whenever you are cooking everything that you're going to eat for the rest of the week. My family would never go for that. So fridge prepping, what we're doing is we're basically getting all of the food in our fridge ready to cook. So we're doing all of the chopping for the entire week on one day. All of our meat's going to be marinated. All of our fruit's going to be rinsed and ready to eat. So we get all of that done. And so it's going to take you about an hour, but what you save is you don't have to clean up every single day as if you were chopping every single day. Or even though it's just a few seconds, if you're going to like rinse those grapes off, you can rinse them off just once instead of every single time you want to eat them. And so now like you're just walking by the fridge, you're like, "Hey, I want something small." You can reach in and just grab a couple grapes instead of being like, "Oh no, I'll have to rinse them out. I'll have to do all these other steps." So fridge prepping is just getting everything ready in your fridge to eat. And the way we do it, normally if something comes up during the week, you're like, "Hey, I don't actually have enough time for this meal," you can just freeze it. You don't have to worry about wasting it because you're just really tired of it. Or if you forget about it, it's like, "Hey, we can just go ahead and throw this in the freezer and have it for later."
oh, that's such a good point. As we are recording this, today is Sunday, and Tiffany, I'm going to be honest, I literally took out some chicken breast on probably Tuesday and told myself that I was going to cook them on Wednesday. They're still in the same packet that they came in, and I've done nothing with them, which means I'm going to have to throw that chicken away. Like it's clearly Sunday. And so I think you just got to a really important question, which is, how does food then not go to waste? And I think your answer is what you just said. You throw it in the freezer because it's already prepped and prepared, right?
Yeah, of course. But one other thing that I make sure all the moms know is we always shop at home first. So whenever we're getting our meal plan together and everything, we're like, "Hey, what do we already have And then in that process, you're like, hey, actually, I bought these bananas last week. I bought six of them and we only ate two. Like, granted, kids are kids. They vary week to week, but it's like, hey, do I need to keep buying this much? And so you actually start to get really good at knowing how much your family's gonna eat. We also try and make sure that we have a freezer inventory, so you know what's in your freezer. So it's really easy for you to just, hey, let me grab this because I know I'm running out of this. And so frozen peas and carrots is one thing that's always in my freezer, because it's really easy to make fried rice. And so
Oh.
as long as you just have frozen peas and carrots, you pretty much have eggs and rice, and you can have some really good fried rice.
I have never had peas and carrots in my freezer, so, which is a problem as a Phillips physician. Eat more peas and carrots, guys. When I think about meal prepping and probably three or even fridge prepping, one of the things I have to think about is time. Time is such a huge factor. And honestly, I think it is the reason that so many folks just run by the, fast food and grab something on the way home instead of actually preparing a meal. So, can you talk a little bit about how meal prepping or fridge prepping, and that is what we'll call it for the rest of the show, how that actually saves us time throughout the week? And will you go through a little bit of what you do on Sunday and how you would prep for the entire week ahead?
So the way I used to do it, is basically the first step is you always clean your kitchen. That's gonna be your first step. If you start with a dirty kitchen, it's just is a recipe for it not to be as successful. But you want to start with a clean kitchen, and basically you get everything out. So it's quite daunting at first, but you're gonna get everything out, so you don't have to keep running back and forth. You don't have to keep stopping to make sure you have this. You're going to get everything out except for your meat, but you get everything out so it's right in front of you, and you just create your station. And you just start chopping and you go down each recipe. Typically, we're putting it in either plastic bags or plastic containers. You load all of that up. Once you're almost done, you put everything up. It's only going to take you probably about 2 minutes, even though your kitchen's probably going to look really chaotic. It's just going to take you about 2 minutes to put back all your spices, put up your olive oil, that minced garlic you grabbed out of the freezer, or the fridge. You put it all up, and then that's when you get your meat out. And once you get your meat out, you're on the home stretch. You're almost done. And so it'll probably take you about 10 minutes. And so I've done this. And so typically I prep 4 meals for the week and then one to go in the freezer. So I'm always stocking my freezer. And whenever I do it this way, it honestly only takes me about an hour. Granted, if my oldest daughter helps, it's gonna take longer, but it's only gonna take me about an hour. And so if you think about how long it takes you to get dinner ready one night of the week,
Absolutely. It takes
it's
me
probably
2 hours.
it's probably around that time. So if you want to, whenever you're prepping Sunday dinner, like that can be when you prep everything. So I would do it at 2 p.m. because that is when my middle daughter takes a nap. So I use that time, because I can get it done whenever my oldest is up, but my middle daughter really wants to help, and she's not as skilled in the kitchen yet. We're working on that.
Well, she and I are on the same page if she's not as skilled in the kitchen. So that makes a lot of sense then, the getting 4 meals ready. Now, when you say 4 meals, you mean 4 dinners for the rest of the week, but you also mentioned a freezer meal. What do you mean by that?
So whenever I am prepping, so I pick out four different meals for the week. And so typically they're dinners, but you're also gonna normally I make a little extra for a lunch or two throughout the week. And so one of the recipes, I'm going to just double it. It's just as easy to make twice as much, but I'm gonna double it and just put it in the freezer. And that way we're stocking our freezer. So on weeks where you're like, hey, we're going on vacation on Wednesday, like I really don't want to prep for like 3 days out of the week, or you're like, hey, this week everyone got sick. I don't have time, like I don't have the energy. It's like, hey, we're just eating out of the freezer this week. And so hopefully if you start by stocking your freezer, that kind of gives you that margin or gives you that space and gives you that time to kind of really get into a system and get things in place so that whenever those punches come, or whenever you're having those really hard weeks, you can just be like, instead of going to just default and eating out, it's like, hey, we're just gonna grab some things out of the freezer. We've already put in the time to prep them. We just got to remember to defrost them.
Gotcha. And that also having those meals in the freezer, I guess, gives you a chance for variety too, if you're able to dig back to something that you've got in the freezer already. I guess my biggest concern would be getting to Tuesday and thinking, oh no, I don't want this thing tonight. But then you've got a freezer meal if your freezer is stocked to be able to go back and reach for.
Definitely. And so a lot of times that really helps with the variety, like you said. And so we'll know those meals are like, hey, this was a really good one. Like we really enjoyed it, or this is one that we probably aren't making again. And so you kind of just keep track of that and all right, I'm really glad I only made one. And so typically whenever I am cooking something or prepping something to go in the freezer, it is one that is kind of tried and true and I know my family likes. Like I typically don't prep something for the first time and double it. It's one of those tried and trues that I know everyone's gonna like.
That makes sense. So the tried and trues, and you mentioned earlier the fried rice. So that sounds like one of your tried and trues also. Can you share some examples of just some simple, maybe two or three simple, healthy meals that are really easy to prep in advance? So thinking for someone like me who does not cook a whole lot, start me off with some basic meals.
So my favorite is gonna be just sausage and veggies and on a sheet pan. Sheet pan meals save me so frequently. So I just get sausage and then two vegetables. I chop them up and then you just put them in the oven for 30 to 45 minutes and then it's done. Typically, I might also cook some rice on the stove, which rice I'm always doubling because then you can have fried rice the next day. But that's one of the easiest meals. And so whenever I go into my kitchen, I like to at least come out with two meals. And so if you're doing something like a skillet meal, which is another super easy one, that's when you can kind of make breakfast for the next day or make your kids lunch for the next day. But those sheet pan meals are always the best. We also do honey garlic salmon that goes in a sheet pan. And that is also a crowd favorite. I feel like most of my family's favorite meals are actually sheet pan meals, which that's super easy cleanup. You just put some tinfoil down, and so you come out with a clean sheet pan that you might just have to rinse off or put a little bit of soap and water on. But the cleanup is typically super easy with those.
And so I really like the sausage and veggies one. So on Sunday, you literally are just cutting up your link sausage, cutting up your veggies, and then putting them in a baggie or a container. How do you prep that meal?
So typically, I just cut up all the vegetables. The order would be I would cut up all the vegetables and then I would add whatever spices I wanted. So I'd add my salt, my pepper, my garlic, my onion, all of those spices, and then I'd add the sausage. So I have two options. If it's a meal that I think I might need to freeze, I'll do it in a freezer Ziploc bag. If it's one of those meals that I know we're getting to this week, then I'll just do it in a plastic container with a lid. And so those are the two containers that I normally use to get those meals preserved.
Gotcha. So the sheet pan meals, I think I can do that. You mentioned skillet meals. What do you mean by that?
So skillet meals are typically one pot meals where
Okay.
everything's gonna get cooked in one pot. So skillet meals are typically saved for when I know I need to be in the kitchen or I have to be in the kitchen. I really don't like washing dishes. It is my least favorite
Same,
activity.
same,
Even though I
100%.
love to cook. The dishes I can't. So I typically do wash dishes whenever I do skillet meals because you have to be in the kitchen. So there's a chicken legs and rice that I really love. And so basically, you put your chicken legs with the spices, you put those in the skillet, you get them browned on both sides. You take them out, just transfer them to a plate, put rice in it, add your water, and then just put the chicken legs on top. Typically, I add a little bit of broccoli so we have some sort of vegetable.
Right?
And then you just let it simmer until the rice is cooked.
But I see what you're saying. You can also be productive while it's there, but you're not walking away from it and possibly burning it, which happens
Yes.
fairly often in my house. Gotcha. Well, that sounds really good. So I feel like I can get into this. You've already talked about starting off with a clean space, and that may be one of your main tips if I were to ask you to give me kind of three must-do tips to be efficient and effective with prepping. What tips would you give us?
So definitely starting off with a clean kitchen. If my kitchen isn't clean, then I'm just not going grocery shopping. Like I'm not gonna start the whole process. So I start the process by cleaning my kitchen. And so that's the first thing, but also shopping at home first And so typically those things can kind of go together. So you're cleaning your kitchen, you're taking inventory of what's in your pantry, you're also looking and seeing what's in your refrigerator, getting everything, getting to know everything that's in there and knowing what you need to restock. And then the third thing is to clean up before you're done. And so typically it's about 10 minutes. So I almost always leave my meat in the refrigerator. And so it's kind of a natural pause. And so once I get to that point of my fridge prep, that's when I put all my spices back. I kind of clean my counter just a little bit. And so those are the three things. You always want to start with a clean kitchen. Shop at home first. That's going to save you money, especially on spices. Currently, I probably have like 4 bottles of cumin. And
Same.
then the last thing is just making sure that you pause and then you do that last minute cleanup.
Gotcha. I may have 4 bottles of cumin and they're probably all unopened because I saw a recipe that I thought I would make and never actually made it. So do you keep like a running grocery list on your fridge or do you keep it in your phone? Like how do you, once you decide what you're going to do for the week and you've done inventory of your fridge, where do you keep that info?
So typically I'm old school and I print it out. So I'm gonna go ahead and I print out my entire shopping list and then that's what I take in my kitchen and I'm marking off the things that I have and then I'm adding those little snacks that I know my girls need or on Friday Ruby has to bring Fun Friday snack. So I have to make sure that I
Oh,
remember to go get her. I believe I'm getting Lucky Charms since it's almost St. Patrick's Day. But
there you go.
yes, I have to make sure I remember to go get that. So I'm old school. I print it out and I carry it around, and that's how I make sure that I get everything. The other thing that I use is I use Thrive Market. So Thrive Market, they ship most of our snacks. So for the most part, those snacks get shipped to us on a regular basis, and so I'm just kind of making sure that we still have some.
Yeah, sounds good. Good deal. So I think you've given us some really good information. Can you kind of pull everything together for us into a little bit of a summary?
Of course. So, whenever it comes to creating margin in your day, one of the things that we all do is we all have to eat. And so, by taking some of that time or some of the mental load or some of the thoughts, taking some of that away, or I shouldn't say taking it away, but reclaiming it, you can kind of start gradually earning your time back. And so, whenever you start thinking about fridge prepping, it's like, okay, I'm gonna put in this hour to then reclaim 4, 5, maybe even 6 hours, depending on how good or how efficient you are in your kitchen. You could reclaim about that much time. And so you just want to make sure that you go in with a plan. You want to know exactly what you're shopping for. You want to make sure you're looking at what's in your pantry and what's in your fridge first. You're having a good idea about, hey, what meals should we have on what night? One of the other things that we didn't quite get to was I always like to pair activities with meals. So if you were one of those moms who's like, hey, I remember like I used to really love going to yoga, but now I'm always rushing home so that I can get dinner on the table. Well, hey, that's a crock pot meal. You get a crock pot meal on after work, you run to yoga, you get in your yoga stretches, and then you come home and you're like, hey, dinner's ready. I'm refreshed because I got to go to yoga, and then you're more present. You also don't have much cleanup.
Yeah.
And so typically like summing it all up and getting it all together is fridge prepping buys you some freedom. It helps you reclaim your time, and it also is a great system for you to start figuring out other things that kind of make you you and other ways that you can get back to being a more healthier version of yourself.
Absolutely. I love that. So, where can my listeners find more information about Mom's Margin? And where can I find more information about Mom's Margin? I'm not a mom, but I am really going to work hard on fridge prepping and doing a little bit better.
Yeah, so in our group, it's a Facebook group. It's primarily moms, but anyone's welcome. So it is the Calm Thriving Cook. So it's Moms of Margin, the Calm Thriving Cook. You can join our Facebook group and find more information there. Of course, there's just a couple questions that are going to get your email address from you, and then I'll start sending you some emails. But please join us. We do some live meal prep sessions in there. We're actually currently in the middle of a 30-day challenge to kind of get you some of those recipes and get you more ideas about where to start whenever you are starting your fridge prep journey. So please come join us, join our challenge.
That sounds awesome. I need the emails. I need the challenge. I need all the information. This sounds really great, Tiffany. I'm so glad that you joined us today. If it's okay with you, I'm going to link the Facebook group in the show notes. So, for everyone listening, if you are interested, please go check out the Facebook group. I will be there. I'll be the one asking all of the questions that probably sound really elementary, but I'm going to work on prepping so that I can buy back my time during the week, and just be healthier in general. I mean, even the meals that you've mentioned, whether it's the skillet meals or sheet pan meals, are just a really good way to get in a good protein source, to get in, good veggies, making sure that we do have some carbs there, but a way to get a really complete and balanced diet too, right? And when you're thinking about it in advance and not just pulling things together and it's, oh, what do I have in my fridge? Now my plate has two different carbs on it and a meat and no vegetable. But when you think about it in advance, you really do allow yourself to get a more balanced plate. So that's great. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Tiffani, Dr. Thomas. It is always wonderful to connect and catch up with you. I'm so excited about the great things that you're doing with Moms of Margin, and so thankful to have you as a friend and to know you and your sweet family. So thanks for joining us today. Hopefully, we can get you back on the podcast a little bit later as we continue to look at ways to make us all healthier here in our group. We are certainly headed to healthier, and I believe that fridge prepping is a wonderful way to get there. So thanks again.
Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for listening in today. I hope something you heard in this episode will help you on your journey to becoming healthier. Remember, this podcast offers general health information. I am not your personal physician. If you need advice that is specific to you, be sure to consult your physician. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider sharing it with a friend and reviewing it on Apple Podcasts. Also, be sure to subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. Tune in next week for another great episode of Headed to Healthier. Until then, take care of yourself. Talk soon. Bye.